She thought the camera was off, but the billionaire CEO never looked away. And everything changed. She thought the meeting had ended. She was tired, barefoot, and finally alone in her apartment. She took off her blazer, loosened the top button of her blouse, and smiled softly, unaware her camera was still on. Not by a stranger, by Nathan Hale, the billionaire CEO known for firing without blinking, cold, untouchable, emotionless. But that night, he didn't look away. He couldn't. And what he saw changed everything. Before we continue, if you enjoy touching and inspiring stories like this one, make sure to subscribe to the channel and leave a like. Now, let's get back to the story. Chloe Bennet had no idea someone was still watching. The video call had ended. At least she thought it had. The little red leave meeting icon was gone, her screen had gone black, and her workday, full of awkward silences and unanswered emails, was finally over. She let out a quiet sigh, barely louder than the hum of her apartment's old radiator. Her small studio in Brooklyn was dimly lit by a single standing lamp, casting a soft glow across the walls. There was something heartbreakingly tender about the way her world looked at night, warm, lived in, and completely hers. She stood from her chair and stretched her arms overhead, unaware that the laptop camera had never turned off, unaware that Nathan Hale, CEO of Hale & Wexler Innovations, hadn't hung up either. He should have. He always did. He didn't like loose ends. But today, something had kept him there. At first, it was just to double-check the last figures she'd sent. Chloe was new, a junior data analyst, hired just a month ago, and her report had been clean, simple, maybe too simple. But then, as the call ended and her window remained open, Nathan saw her pause, close her eyes, and drop her shoulders like someone who'd been holding the world all day. He should have looked away, but he didn't, and she had no idea. She slipped off her blazer and tossed it over the back of a chair. The thin blouse looked wrinkled and worn, maybe from the humidity or just from a long day. She reached for the collar to loosen it, sighing like someone trying to breathe again. Her hands tugged at the top button, revealing the soft outline of a white tank underneath. Simple, unremarkable, but somehow more vulnerable in the quiet glow of her apartment. Barefoot, she walked over to the kitchen counter and poured herself water, pushing her hair away from her face. And Nathan just sat there, staring at the screen. He wasn't staring inappropriately. He wasn't smiling. He was frozen, not by what he saw, but by the feeling it stirred. Maybe it was the way she looked when no one was around. Maybe it was the way her hands trembled, just slightly, like she carried something heavy no one else could see. Or maybe it was because, for the first time in a very long time, Nathan Hale felt something. Real, unfiltered, human. He reached for his mouse to click out, but something stopped him. Chloe pulled her hair into a loose bun, strands falling down around her face, and stood in front of her mirror. She didn't pose or try to look good, quite the opposite. She frowned, then looked away quickly, like she couldn't stand what she saw. Nathan inhaled sharply. What was she seeing in the mirror that made her sad? That made her avoid her own reflection? He shut the laptop with a snap. He wasn't supposed to see that. And yet, all night, he couldn't stop thinking about it. Chloe didn't know, not that night, not the next. She went about her week, anxious, tired, always second-guessing herself. At work, Nathan was like usual, distant, unreadable, eyes scanning the room without settling on anyone too long. But twice that week, she caught him staring at her. And once, he smiled, just a flicker, barely there. But it was enough to unsteady her, because Nathan Hale never smiled. 3 days later, Chloe was working late, alone in the office. She was wearing headphones when the message popped up on her screen. Nathan Hale. "Bennett, you have a moment?" Her breath caught. She quickly pulled the earbuds out. "Yes, of course." The video call connected instantly. His face appeared, that strong jawline, those impossibly green eyes. But tonight, something was different. His voice was lower, slower, like he wasn't sure how to begin. "About the other night." She blinked. "Sir?" Nathan cleared his throat. "I think your camera didn't turn off when our call ended." Her stomach dropped. He knows. I thought it did," she whispered. "It didn't." There was silence. Her mouth opened, but no words came out. She could feel her heartbeat in her ears. Nathan looked away for a second. "I want to make something clear, Chloe. I wasn't trying to invade your privacy. I stayed on longer than I should have. That's on me." She sat still, too embarrassed to speak. "I didn't see everything," he said softly, "but I saw enough to know you were exhausted and sad." That last word. Sad. It hit her like a wave. Not because he said it, but because someone finally saw it. She nodded slowly, tears threatening at the edge of her lashes. "I'm sorry," she said, voice cracking. "No," he interrupted. "I'm sorry. I shouldn't have stayed on, but I want you to know something." She looked up, scared to breathe. "I've worked with thousands of people. I've seen a lot of faces. But yours—" He hesitated. "The way you looked when you thought no one was watching, I haven't forgotten that." He paused, as if weighing whether to continue. "There was only one other time I felt something like that. Years ago. Her name was Elise." Chloe blinked, surprised by the honesty and the ache behind the name. Nathan shook his head slightly, almost to himself. "But that's a closed chapter." He didn't say more, and Chloe didn't press. Her hands trembled in her lap. "I don't know why I'm telling you this," he said quietly. "I just needed to." She could barely find her voice. "Why?" Nathan paused. His expression softened, just a little. "Because something about you stays." The screen flickered slightly. Chloe felt her heart drop and rise at the same time. "I should go," Nathan said, his voice low. "You've had a long week," she nodded. Still dazed, her heart hammering in her chest. "Good night, Mr. Hale." He didn't correct her formality. But just before the screen faded to black, his voice came again. Softer this time, like something slipping through a crack he didn't mean to leave open. "Don't hide so much, Chloe. Sometimes someone might be watching. And not because they're judging." The screen went dark. Chloe sat frozen, her own reflection now dimmed on the black laptop screen. Her fingers hovered above the keyboard, her breath caught somewhere in her throat. She stood there, caught between fear and something softer she didn't have a name for. A soft ding broke the silence. New email. Subject: dinner invitation. Executive team only. Sender: Nathan Hale. Location: Lumiere Restaurant, 8 p.m. Formal attire. Required no explanation, no details, just one single line in the body of the email. "Please consider your present important." She read it once. Then again. Her lips parted slightly as she stared at the message, unable to move. And somehow, deep in her gut, she already knew nothing about her life was ever going to be the same again. Chloe had never eaten at a place like Lumiere. She stood outside the glass-paneled doors, her hands cold despite the early evening warmth. Her reflection stared back at her. Simple black dress, soft curls framing her face, and eyes that couldn't decide whether they were terrified or curious. She almost hadn't come. In fact, she'd hovered over the decline button in her inbox for an entire hour before finally quietly clicking accept. Now here she was, standing on the edge of something she didn't understand. She stepped inside. The lighting was low and golden, casting shadows that flickered like candlelight. Everything smelled like rosemary and citrus. A quiet string quartet played in the corner, the kind of music that made you feel like you didn't belong unless you had a name that meant something. And Chloe Bennett didn't. The hostess greeted her by name like she was expected, and led her through the sea of sleek suits and whispered conversations. But there was no executive team, no long table, no partners or assistants, just one man, sitting alone at a secluded corner booth with 2 glasses of wine already poured. Nathan Hale. His eyes lifted the moment she approached, and for a split second the intensity of his gaze made her feel completely naked, not in the way that frightened her, but in the way that made her want to cover her heart. He stood polite and composed and pulled out her chair. "Thank you for coming," he said, as if it wasn't the strangest thing in the world for a billionaire CEO to invite a junior analyst to dinner. She nodded slowly, unsure of her voice. "I wasn't sure if I was supposed to." Nathan smiled, a quiet, rare curve of his lips. "You were." They sat. For the first few minutes, neither of them touched the wine. Chloe tried to read the room, the crisp linen tablecloth, the way he sat perfectly straight, how he barely blinked when he looked at her. He wasn't like this in meetings. Then again, this wasn't a meeting. "Why am I here?" she asked finally, her voice small. Nathan didn't answer right away. He glanced down at the menu but didn't seem to be reading it. "Because I think there's more to you than spreadsheets and email etiquette," he said calmly, "and I don't like guessing who people are." That answer didn't help her heart rate. "I'm not sure what you're trying to see," she said carefully. Nathan looked directly at her. "Neither am I." His honesty knocked the air from her lungs. Silence stretched again, but it wasn't awkward. It was heavy, full of things neither of them knew how to say. Finally, he asked, "Where are you from?" "Upstate. Small town no one's heard of. Left after college." "Family?" She hesitated. "My mom passed when I was 19. Dad and I don't talk much." Nathan nodded, as if he understood. "I lost my mother at 17. Something softened between them. He looked down. "I've been raised in boardrooms ever since." Chloe watched him for a moment, the man who owned towers, who signed checks bigger than her college debt, who sat here like someone trying to remember what it meant to simply talk. "You don't seem comfortable here," she said. His eyes flicked to hers, a bit amused. "Neither do you." They both smiled, and just like that, the tension cracked open, letting something warmer seep through. The wine was poured, the food arrived, and the conversation shifted. She told him about her high school English teacher who believed in her. He told her about the time he broke $1 billion deal because he trusted the wrong person. They both laughed, surprised at themselves, when he admitted he hated caviar. And she confessed she'd once gotten stuck in the elevator of his building on her first week at the job and cried the whole time. "I was afraid someone was watching the security cameras," she laughed, cheeks flushed. Nathan tilted his head, almost smiling. Maybe someone was. Their eyes met across the table. This time the silence was electric. Chloe reached for her glass too quickly and knocked her fork to the floor. She bent to pick it up, embarrassed, but when she sat back up, he was already standing, offering her his. She blinked. "You don't have to." "I want to." Their hands touched for a second longer than necessary, and suddenly the elegant restaurant, the music, the pressure of who he was, it all faded. There was just him and her. And something delicate between them neither one of them wanted to say out loud yet. He glanced at the time but didn't move. "Stay a little longer?" She nodded. "I was hoping you'd say that." And they did. Dessert came, then coffee, then the check, which he ignored like money didn't matter, and maybe for him, it didn't. But for Chloe, it mattered why he'd brought her here. As they stepped out into the night, the city buzzed around them. Nathan walked beside her, not ahead, hands in his coat pockets, jaw set but relaxed. She turned to him. "Was this business?" He stopped walking. "No," he said. A beat passed. "Then what was it?" He looked at her, really looked at her, not like a CEO, not like a man who had power, but like someone who saw something that scared him. "It was curiosity," he said finally. "And maybe something I'm not supposed to want." The air thickened. Chloe swallowed hard, but her voice was steady. "And do you still want it?" He didn't answer right away. Instead, he stepped closer, not touching her, not saying anything, just standing there like he was holding something back. Then he leaned in, but not to kiss her, just close enough that she could feel the warmth of his breath when he said, "I haven't decided if I'm brave enough." And before she could answer, a car pulled up to the curb. His driver. Nathan opened the door but didn't get in. Instead, he turned to her once more. "Be careful, Chloe. There are people in this world who look at you and see everything they're missing." And then he was gone. She stood there, the breeze tugging at her dress, her heart thudding against her ribs, and for the first time in a very long time, she realized someone had just left and taken a piece of her with him. The next morning, Chloe couldn't concentrate. The office buzzed around her, phones ringing, footsteps echoing, muted conversations drifting from glass-walled conference rooms. But she felt disconnected from all of it. Her screen blurred as spreadsheets filled with numbers blinked back at her, waiting for her input. She hadn't slept much. The dinner with Nathan kept replaying in her mind, like a movie she couldn't turn off. The quiet intensity in his voice, the way his eyes held her like they were learning her face. That last sentence before he stepped into the car. It echoed louder than anything he'd said all evening. "Be careful, Chloe. There are people in this world who look at you and see everything they're missing." She didn't know if it was a warning or a confession, or both. Her fingers hovered over the keyboard, then pulled back. She wasn't just distracted, she was affected, and that terrified her, more than she wanted to admit. "Hey," a voice said beside her. Chloe jumped slightly. It was Mia, one of the only co-workers she'd grown close to, a fast-talking intern with sharp eyeliner and a sixth sense for emotional disasters. "You okay?" Mia asked, squinting. "You look like someone just canceled your birthday." Chloe smiled faintly. "Just tired." Mia tilted her head. "And wearing perfume before 10 a.m. What happened?" Chloe hesitated. Mia's eyes widened. "Oh my God, did you go on a date?" Chloe didn't answer, which was answer enough. "With who?" Mia whisper shouted, glancing around like they were being recorded. Chloe bit her lip, cheeks flushing. "You'll think I'm crazy." Mia's mouth fell open. "Wait. Was it someone from the office?" Chloe gave the tiniest nod. Mia's eyes narrowed. "Please don't tell me it was Kyle from accounting." Chloe laughed, too suddenly. No. Definitely not Kyle." Mia leaned in closer. "Then who?" Chloe hesitated. She wanted to tell someone, but saying his name out loud made it feel real and dangerous. She lowered her voice. "Nathan." Mia blinked. "Nathan? Hale?" Chloe didn't speak, just looked at her, eyes wide and uncertain. Mia slowly sank into the chair beside her, as if her knees gave out. "Holy, actual, hell!" "I know. You had dinner with the CEO. I didn't plan to." "But you did." Chloe nodded slowly. Mia stared at her. "Was it like a date?" "I don't know what it was," Chloe admitted. "He invited me, we talked." "It wasn't professional." Mia leaned in, whispering so quietly Chloe could barely hear. "You know what this means, right?" "What?" "You're either about to become the next CEO's girlfriend or the next office ghost." Chloe's stomach twisted. She hadn't thought about that. Was she stepping into something or falling into it? Before she could answer, a ping sounded on her screen. "Meeting request. 10 minutes? Send her. Nathan Hale." Her throat went dry. When Chloe stepped into Nathan's office, the first thing she noticed was how still everything felt. The room was designed like the man, minimal, precise, cold at first glance. But now that she'd seen the way his voice softened in candlelight, she couldn't look at this space the same. He was standing near the window, looking out over the city skyline. He didn't turn when she entered. "Close the door, please." She did. He stayed silent for a moment longer, then finally turned to face her. "Have a seat." She sat, folding her hands tightly in her lap. Nathan moved to his desk, but didn't sit. He leaned against it, arms crossed. "I wasn't going to call you in," he said quietly. "But I realized not saying anything would be worse." Chloe looked up. "Worse?" "I wanted to be clear," he said. "What happened last night, I didn't plan it, I didn't expect it, and I'm not sure what to do about it now." She waited. "I've never blurred lines like this before," he admitted, "with anyone, and especially not someone under my leadership." Chloe's voice was barely a whisper. It didn't feel like a line. "Until now." Nathan exhaled, looking down. "That's what scares me." Her chest ached. "So what are we supposed to do?" He looked at her again, steady, deliberate. "I'm not asking you to do anything," he said. "You haven't broken any rules, but I have a responsibility to protect this company, and I'm not sure I can do that while also wanting to see you again." Chloe's heart skipped. It wasn't just her. He felt it too. "I'm not trying to manipulate you," he continued. "I'm not asking you to choose. I just needed you to hear it from me before the world tries to twist it into something it isn't." Chloe's fingers tightened. "Do people already know?" "No, but they will." "How?" He looked at her gently. "Because someone's already asking questions." Her stomach turned. "Who?" Nathan hesitated. "It doesn't matter. What matters is that we're not invisible anymore." Chloe stood. "So what do we do now? Pretend it didn't happen?" Nathan looked at her like he wanted to say something else, something more. But instead he said, "I don't know." She turned to go, but stopped at the door. "I didn't come to this job looking for anything," she said quietly. "But I also didn't expect the most powerful man in the building to make me feel seen." He didn't answer. "I'll do my job," she added, "but I'm not going to apologize for feeling something." "Even if you're afraid of it." She left before he could respond. Back at her desk, Chloe stared at her monitor. Mia had left a coffee on her desk with a sticky note. "Tell me everything, or I'll die." But Chloe couldn't think about that now. Her screen flickered with a notification. New message from unknown number. "You were right." It didn't feel like a line, until now. N. Chloe read it once, then again, and all she could think was, he's already crossed it. The next few days were unbearable. Nathan didn't message again. Not a text, not a glance in the hallway. At meetings, he sat at the head of the table, impassive, his eyes never landing on her for more than a second. And Chloe played along. She kept her head down, kept quiet, kept everything locked inside. But inside, she was spiraling. Every time her phone buzzed, her heart jumped. Every time his name came up in conversation, which it often did, she had to remind herself to keep breathing. Mia noticed the change immediately. "You look like you've seen a ghost every time someone mentions his name," she said one afternoon in the break room. "What happened?" Chloe shook her head. "Nothing. It's fine." But it wasn't. Because now that she'd tasted what it was like to be noticed by Nathan Hale, going back to being invisible felt impossible. She hadn't realized how much she wanted to be seen, not just for her work, but for who she was. And now she felt like a secret no one was allowed to say out loud. Friday morning, everything changed. Chloe was called into HR. The woman waiting for her was polite but sharp, the kind of smile that didn't reach the eyes. "We've had a couple of concerns raised this week," she said, folding her hands neatly on the desk. "An anonymous tip, something about optics and preferential treatment." Her chest tightened. "And someone mentioned seeing you at Lumiere with Mr. Hale." "That's a high-profile venue, Chloe." "Naturally." It caught some attention. Chloe nodded. "Yes?" The woman leaned back, scribbling something on her clipboard. Chloe hesitated. "It's been good. Challenging, but I'm learning a lot." "Good, that's good." A pause. "You've had a few late nights, I see. A couple of closed-door meetings?" Chloe's stomach twisted. "Just work-related," she said quickly. "Nothing unusual." "I'm sure." The woman smiled again, too tightly. "And dinners?" Chloe blinked. "What?" I understand you were seen entering Lumiere earlier this week. That's not exactly a casual spot. Just curious. Were you dining with a client? The air in the room felt thinner. It was personal. The woman leaned back, scribbling something on her clipboard. Chloe, she said gently, we don't police relationships here, but we do have to protect the integrity of leadership. Anything that could be misinterpreted becomes our concern. I didn't do anything wrong, Chloe whispered. We're not saying you did, she replied smoothly. But if you find yourself in a situation where boundaries are unclear, it's always best to step back, for your sake and his. The message was clear. Stay in your lane, or be removed from it. Chloe walked out of the office numb, no reprimand, no written warning. But the weight of it pressed against her chest like a secret bruise. She wanted to cry. But instead, she walked straight to the elevator and hit the top floor. She didn't care who saw. Nathan was at his desk, reading a file, when she knocked once and stepped in. His eyes lifted, and for the first time in days, something flickered in them. Chloe. She shut the door behind her. They talked to me, she said, voice tight. Nathan stood immediately. Who? HR. They know. His jaw clenched. What did they say? They didn't have to say much. They were careful, smiling. But it was clear, if I don't disappear quietly, they'll make me disappear anyway. He stepped toward her. They can't touch you. Yes, they can, her voice cracked. You might not see it, but I'm disposable here, Nathan. You're not. His face changed, softer, sadder. That's not true. She shook her head. It is. And maybe that's why this can't happen. Because we don't live in the same world. You have the power to stop this, and I don't even have the power to explain it. Nathan took another step closer. She didn't move. Chloe, his voice dropped. I didn't reach out because I didn't want to make this harder, but I've thought about you every single day since that night. She blinked back tears. Then why did you act like I was just another face in the room? Because I didn't know how to protect you, he paused. But I do now. She looked at him, her chest rising and falling. And what are you going to do? He stared at her for a long time, his jaw tight, his hands clenched. Then, suddenly he turned and opened his drawer, pulled out a form, signed it, stamped it, slid it across the desk. Effective immediately, he said. I'm stepping back as your supervisor. You'll be moved to a new team, different floor, no reporting lines between us. Chloe stared at the paper, stunned. I'm not walking away from this, he said, but I am removing the reason people can twist it. She shook her head slowly. You did this for me? I did it for us, if there's going to be one. She could barely speak. What if I don't even know what I want? Then let's figure it out like two people. Not a boss and an employee. He stepped closer, gently now. No pressure, no assumptions. Chloe, he said quietly, if I didn't see a future in this, I wouldn't risk everything I've built. Her voice trembled. And what if I'm scared of losing the little I have? Then we'll protect it together. A single tear slipped down her cheek. She didn't wipe it. I don't know if I can survive being hurt by you. Nathan looked shattered. I'd never forgive myself if I did. They stood there, the silence between them full of everything they'd both been too afraid to say. And then, slowly, carefully, she walked into his arms. No kiss, no promises. Just the fragile truth of two people choosing to face something terrifying together. By Monday morning, everything had changed. Chloe had a new desk on a different floor. The move was positioned as a strategic reallocation of resources, but everyone knew what it really was. She was being distanced. And people noticed. Eyes followed her when she passed. Conversations stopped just a second too late. Whispers floated through the office air like perfume, subtle but heavy. Some of them looked curious, some judgmental, and some openly bitter. Mia was the only one who stayed close. I swear, she whispered over lunch, I will fight anyone who looks at you like that again. Chloe smiled weakly. It's fine." "No, it's not." Mia leaned in. "They're acting like you did something wrong, like falling for someone is a crime." Chloe stirred her coffee. "It's not just about falling for him. It's him, Nathan Hale. People treat him like a storm. Everyone watches. But no one wants to get too close." Mia sighed. "And you?" "You walked into the storm." Chloe looked out the window. The city stretched wide and gray. "I didn't walk in," she said quietly. "I didn't even know I was already in it." That afternoon Nathan texted, 6 p.m., back entrance. "Let me show you something that doesn't belong to this world." She read it twice, then 3 more times. At 6 p.m., Chloe stepped through the back exit near the loading docks. A black town car waited, driver silent, window down. Nathan sat inside, dressed in a charcoal gray coat, his collar turned up slightly, green eyes meeting hers the second the door opened. He didn't say a word. Just reached across the seat and held the door open. She slid in without speaking. The car pulled off, weaving through the evening traffic until the lights of the city faded into softer tones, until glass towers turned into trees and silence. They arrived 20 minutes later in front of a tall, ivy-covered gate. Nathan keyed in a code himself. "What is this place?" Chloe asked softly. He didn't answer. Just stepped out and opened her door. The gravel crunched under her heels as she followed him through the iron gate and up a path lit by low golden lights. Then through the trees a cottage appeared. Stone, wood, wrapped in silence and stars. Nathan turned to her as they reached the door. "No one knows about this place, not even my board." Chloe raised her eyebrows. "I bought it before Hale and Wexler ever existed," he continued. "It's the only place I've ever owned that doesn't have anything to do with money." He unlocked the door. The inside was warm, cozy, a fireplace lit, shelves filled with worn books and mismatched mugs. A small record player spun something soft in the background, a jazz tune with no lyrics. Chloe looked around in disbelief. "This is yours?" He nodded. "I used to come here when I was building the company." Every time I thought I was losing myself. Her voice was barely above a whisper. "Why did you bring me here?" Nathan turned to her, slow and deliberate. "Because I needed you to see something real." Her throat tightened. "And maybe," he added, "because I've been afraid that all I've shown you is the version of me the world expects." He walked over to the fireplace, then looked back at her. "I didn't expect you, Chloe. I didn't plan for you, but now I don't know how to be around you without wanting." Chloe stepped forward. Her heart raced, but her voice was steady. "Then stop trying not to." They stood in the quiet for a moment. The flames crackled. The record popped softly. And then, without hesitation, Nathan reached for her hand. He didn't pull her into a kiss. He pulled her to the couch. And for the next hour, they just talked. No pressure, no performance, just raw pieces of 2 very different lives meeting in the middle. She told him about her mother's laughter, about the way she still heard it sometimes when she was alone. He told her about the day he lost his, and how the silence afterward changed the way he trusted people forever. And in between, they sat close enough to touch, but didn't. Not yet. Because this wasn't about rush. This was about recognition. The kind that made your chest ache in a way that felt both terrifying and safe. The next morning, Chloe returned to the office with a sense of calm she hadn't felt in weeks. But by noon, everything had shifted again. A headline flashed across her phone. "Inside the secret life of Nathan Hale, sources say junior employee at center of scandal." Page 7, confidential news desk. Her mouth went dry. She opened the article. There was no name, but the description, it was unmistakable. New hire, female, seen entering a private restaurant alone with Hale, internal shifts following dinner. Sources claim HR was involved. Her photo wasn't there. Yet. But the seed had been planted, and it was only a matter of time before it bloomed into something toxic. She burst into Nathan's office without knocking. He was already holding his phone. "They know," Chloe said, breathless. He looked up, jaw tight. "I've already contacted legal." Chloe's hands trembled. "They're painting me, like I used you, like I clawed my way into your world." "They can say whatever they want," Nathan said. Standing, "It won't change what's real. But I didn't sign up for this. I didn't ask for cameras or rumors or headlines." Nathan walked around the desk, standing in front of her. "I know," he said softly, "and I'm going to fix it." "How?" she asked. "By burying it, paying someone off?" "No," he paused. "By telling the truth." Her eyes widened. "What truth?" Nathan looked at her like she was the only thing keeping him grounded. "That I'm not ashamed of you? That I don't regret what's happening between us?" Chloe blinked. "You'd go public?" "If that's what it takes to protect you, yes." The world outside that office was starting to turn against her. But inside, with Nathan looking at her like that, Chloe realized something important. She hadn't walked into the storm. She was the storm now. By the next morning, the headline had spread like wildfire. The article had been picked up by bigger outlets, rewritten with more bite, more speculation. Some called Chloe a mystery woman. Others went further: ambitious assistant, strategic insider, the quiet girl who climbed too fast. No names, still no photo. But inside the building, everyone knew. The stares weren't subtle anymore. Neither were the whispers. She heard her name, clipped and cold. In elevators, in bathrooms, at the printer. She's the one? Poor thing. Or clever. Depends on how you spin it. Even Mia couldn't protect her from all of it. "People are so fake," she muttered after lunch, slamming her fork down. "They're the same ones who drool when Nathan walks by, but now they act like you poisoned him." Chloe tried to laugh, but it stuck in her throat. She wasn't just being watched anymore. She was being evaluated. Judged for the smile she gave in the hallway, the outfit she wore, how close she stood to the coffee machine. Every step felt like a test. And Nathan? He'd gone silent again, not completely. A single message sent that morning. "Don't let them make you small. I'll take care of it." None. But what did that mean? Take care of it how? What exactly was she supposed to do while the walls quietly closed in? At 3 p.m. her phone buzzed again. A new message. Not from Nathan. From a blocked number. He said the same thing to her, too. "Before everything went wrong, you're not the first. Thought you should know." Chloe stared at the screen, her blood turning cold. She read it again. Then, a third time. Her stomach sank with each word. "You're not the first." What did that mean? Who was her? And what exactly had gone wrong? She couldn't focus. She couldn't sit still. And so, an hour later, when Nathan's driver pulled up unannounced at the curb, Chloe didn't even hesitate. She slid into the back seat, heart pounding, and whispered only one thing. "Take me to him." Nathan was waiting on the rooftop of a private building near the edge of the city, the place where he said he went to breathe when the board got too loud or the press got too close. The wind was cold and clean. The view stretched wide and glittering behind him, but Chloe barely saw it. She walked straight up to him, the words spilling from her mouth before he could speak. Who was she? Nathan turned slowly. "What?" "The message I got from someone anonymous. It said, you told her the same things you told me. That something went wrong. That I'm not the first." His jaw locked. A muscle ticked near his temple. "Who was she, Nathan?" He looked at her. Not angry, not defensive, just exhausted. Her name was Elise. Chloe's chest ached at the name, even before she understood why. "I met her years ago," Nathan said. "Before the company went public. She wasn't an employee. She was a journalist. She interviewed me once, and something happened." He paused. "We were careful. At least we thought we were." Chloe folded her arms tightly. "What happened?" "We fell for each other, quietly, Quickly, I let her into a part of my life no one else had ever seen. And she never betrayed that, not once. But she wrote something, he said. An article about the toxic pressure inside male-dominated tech companies. She didn't name me, didn't mention Hale and Wexler, but people connected the dots anyway. They assumed she was writing about me, about us. Chloe's voice dropped. And what did you do? I stood by her, Nathan said. I defended her. But it wasn't enough. My board turned on her, accused her of trying to sabotage the company from the inside. She was harassed, followed, eventually fired from her job. Chloe's heart twisted. What happened to her? She left the country, Nathan said quietly. I offered to go with her. She told me I'd lose everything if I did. So she left alone, Nathan nodded. Because of you. Because of them, he said firmly. But yes, because she got too close to a man the world refuses to see as human. Chloe turned away, staring out at the skyline. And now it's happening again. I'm not going to let history repeat itself. But it already is. He stepped closer. I was a coward then. I chose silence when I should have chosen truth. I won't make that mistake again. Her voice trembled. And what if I don't survive the attention? What if I'm not strong enough for all this? Nathan reached for her hand. Then lean on me until you are. Chloe looked at him, this man who stood at the top of the world, willing to risk it all for something he hadn't even dared name yet. You want me to be brave, she whispered, but I'm terrified. So am I, he admitted, but maybe that's what makes this real. He didn't kiss her. He didn't need to. His hand in hers, firm and unshaking, said it all. But the city below them was starting to rumble. And neither of them knew just how far the consequences would reach. It was the board, a private meeting, urgent, no assistants, no lawyers. Just Nathan and 7 men in suits too expensive to wrinkle. They didn't sit, they circled. One of them, Jonathan Miles, the company's legal strategist and an investor from day one, stepped forward. You need to shut it down, Nathan. Nathan didn't flinch. Shut what down? Her, Miles said, as if Chloe was a problem to be debugged. Whatever this is between you two, it's bleeding into the company. Our stock dipped 4% this morning. Investors are asking questions. Nathan stood, arms folded, unmoved. So? Miles laughed dryly. This isn't a family-run bakery. This is a multi-billion-dollar corporation. You are the company. Your choices are its image. And right now, that image is cracking. Nathan's eyes narrowed. We've survived worse. Sure, but never with a scandal that involves your personal judgment. Another board member cut in, a woman named Grace Whitmore, sharp as glass. Look, no one's saying you did anything unethical yet, but perception is everything, and right now, you're playing with fire. Chloe isn't the story the press is telling, Nathan said coldly. She didn't chase me. I came to her. That's not how they'll print it, Grace snapped. And you know it. Nathan didn't respond. We're not asking you to fire her, Miles added. We're telling you to end it, quietly, professionally. You move on, she moves on, and the story dies. Nathan looked at them, every face in the room familiar, trusted once, and now not at all. I won't discard someone I care about because it's inconvenient for you. Grace leaned in, arms crossed. Then we may have to vote to remove you as CEO. The room went still. Nathan stared at them for a long moment. Then, calmly, he said, Try. Meanwhile, Chloe sat alone in her apartment. The curtains were drawn, her phone silenced. She hadn't gone to work that morning. Nathan told her not to. Said there were talks happening, and it was safer if she stayed away for now. Safer. That word made her skin crawl, because it didn't mean protected. It meant hidden. She pulled her knees up to her chest on the couch, watching the shadows crawl across the floor. Her laptop sat open, unread emails stacking up like weight. And then, a ding. New message. This one wasn't work-related. It was from Elise Marin. Chloe's heart stopped. The name from Nathan's rooftop confession, the woman who left, the one who got burned. Subject: I wish someone had warned me. Chloe, you don't know me, but I know what you're about to go through. I know how it feels to fall for someone whose shadow is larger than his light. I know the pressure, the whispers, the media. But most of all, I know what it's like to think he'll protect you. I'm not here to hurt you. I'm not angry. I just want you to ask yourself one thing. When it all crashes, will he still be standing next to you? Chloe read the email 5 times. Each word sank deeper than the last. She didn't know Elise, but the pain behind the words felt familiar, like a mirror someone else had already shattered. Hours later, Nathan finally texted, I need to see you. Tonight. Chloe didn't reply right away. She needed to know what he would say before she gave him another piece of herself. She needed to know if she was walking into fire or being let out of it. They met at the cottage, the one place where the noise of the world didn't reach. Nathan was already there, pacing by the fireplace, sleeves rolled up, jaw tense. When Chloe walked in, he froze, like just the sight of her stole his breath. But she didn't smile. Was there a vote? She asked. He nodded. They threatened one. And? I stopped it. For now. She exhaled. What did it cost you? He looked at her, his face unreadable. They gave me an ultimatum, he said. You, or the company. And what did you choose? Silence. She waited. His voice, when it came, was low, shaken. I told them I wouldn't give you up. Her eyes filled. And now? Nathan stepped forward. Now I'm trying to figure out how to hold on to both, without losing everything. She laughed. Bitter, broken. That's not how this works, Nathan. The world doesn't let you have everything. I know. Then why pretend? He reached into his coat pocket and handed her something. A folded letter. What's this? An offer, he said, from the board. Resignation terms. If I step down voluntarily, they won't pursue anything against you. They'll clear your name quietly, let you stay, move you wherever you want. Chloe stared at the letter like it was poison. You're considering it? She whispered. Nathan didn't answer. Tears filled her eyes. That's the problem, isn't it? You're considering it. It's not because I don't love you, he said. The words fell from his mouth like a confession. Quiet, trembling. Chloe froze. What did you just say? Nathan stepped closer, finally letting the walls fall. I love you. She couldn't breathe. I didn't say it before, he continued, because I was afraid, because I thought it would make things harder, but I do, Chloe, and that's why this decision terrifies me. She took a step back. Then why are you thinking about leaving me behind? I'm thinking about protecting you. No, she whispered. You're thinking about protecting your legacy. He blinked, stung. I don't want your resignation. I want your courage. She turned, eyes burning, voice breaking. And if you walk away from this, from us, then I'll know. He looked at her, desperate. Know what? Chloe's voice was barely a breath. That Elise was right. She left before he could answer. And for the first time in Nathan Hale's life, a woman walked out on him. Not because she didn't love him, but because he hadn't figured out how to love her loud enough. The door didn't slam. It clicked softly behind her, which somehow made it worse. Nathan stood in the middle of the cottage, still holding the letter, the air she'd just left behind still warm in the space between his fingers. She was gone, not out of anger, not out of pride, but because he couldn't choose her loudly enough. And now the silence she left behind was louder than anything he'd ever heard. Chloe didn't go home. She couldn't. She walked the streets for hours through rows of sleeping brownstones and streetlights that buzzed like thoughts she couldn't quiet. Her heels ached. Her hands were cold, but it wasn't her body that hurt. It was the part of her that had believed, even for a moment, that someone like Nathan Hale could hold the world in one hand and her in the other. She had asked him to be brave, but she'd also known how afraid he was. That was the part that made it so hard to walk away, because she hadn't just left him. She'd left the version of herself that thought love alone would be enough to fix everything. By morning, the article had evolved. Now it had names. Chloe's photo, blurry but unmistakable, was featured under the headline, "Nathan Hale's Mysterious Analyst, the Face Behind the Fallout." The story didn't stop there. They listed her school, her hometown, old social media posts. A comment she'd made 5 years ago about corporate elitism was cherry-picked and bolded in red. The internet did what it always did. Some people defended her, most didn't. By noon, Chloe had shut off her phone and deleted her accounts. The world was loud, but none of it sounded like the truth. She didn't hear from Nathan, not that day, not the next. On the third day, she received an envelope at her apartment. No return address. Inside, a single sheet of thick ivory paper. "You once said you didn't know what I was trying to see in you. I see it now, and I'm done hiding it from the world. Turn on the live stream at 2 p.m. And Chloe's hands trembled. She looked at the clock. 1:52 p.m. She opened her laptop and went to the Hale and Wexler homepage. There it was, top banner, live now. Nathan Hale, Emergency Press Conference. She clicked. A massive room appeared on screen filled with media and cameras. Nathan stood alone at the podium wearing a black suit. No tie, eyes steady. A microphone screeched slightly as he leaned in. "I wasn't planning to speak today," he began. "But I've made that mistake before." He looked directly into the camera. "And I won't make it again." The room fell completely silent. For the past 2 weeks, the world has speculated about my private life, about a woman I care deeply for. They've assigned her motives, rewritten her story, questioned her worth. He paused. "She has said nothing." Another pause. "Because she still believes that dignity doesn't require defense." Chloe's breath caught in her chest. Nathan continued. "But I no longer have the luxury of silence. Because silence in this case isn't neutrality, it's betrayal." The reporters in the room exchanged glances. "I want to be clear," he said. "Chloe Bennett did not pursue me. She didn't manipulate or scheme or climb anything other than the ladder we told her she was allowed to climb." A wave of clicks from camera shutters echoed around him. "She didn't want this attention. I did, because I saw someone brilliant and kind and real in a world full of people who forget what that even means." His voice dropped slightly. "And yes, I love her." Chloe covered her mouth, tears falling freely now. "She asked me to be brave, and I wasn't. I thought protecting the company meant protecting the silence, but Hale and Wexler doesn't exist without truth, and it definitely doesn't deserve to exist if it demands we bury love to preserve control." He turned from the podium, picked up a second paper and held it up. "My resignation, effective immediately." The room erupted. Flashes, questions, chaos. Nathan stood still, letting it pass like weather. When the noise died down, he looked into the camera one last time. "But let the record show, I didn't step down because I made a mistake. I stepped down because, for the first time in my life, I didn't." And then he walked away. No security, no press handlers, just a man who'd finally said what he should have said all along. Chloe didn't move for several minutes. She didn't wipe her tears. She didn't speak. She just sat there, stunned and trembling, and completely exposed by a truth that had finally been said out loud. He had chosen. And now everything had changed again. There were cameras outside her apartment. News vans lined the block like park shadows. Strangers held phones toward her windows, hoping for a glimpse of the girl who brought down a billionaire. She hadn't left in 2 days. Groceries sat untouched. Her inbox was overflowing. And the letter from Nathan, his last handwritten words, still rested on her nightstand, unfolded and reread 100 times. She should have felt vindicated. The world had seen the truth. Nathan had spoken her name with love in front of the very people who wanted her erased. But Chloe didn't feel powerful. She felt exposed, raw, like all the layers she'd built to survive, politeness, modesty, silence, had been peeled off in public, and now everyone could see the girl underneath. The scared one, the one who never planned on being anyone's headline. And the worst part? She missed him. Not the man in the suit. Not the CEO, but him. The version who made tea in mismatched mugs. The one who'd told her not to hide. The one who'd whispered, some people might be watching, and not because they're judging. Mia showed up on the third day. She didn't knock. She just let herself in, carrying 2 iced coffees and a bag of lemon muffins. "You look like you've been crying for 3 days straight," she said, not unkindly. Chloe didn't deny it. Mia handed her the coffee and sat. "So, are you going to call him?" Chloe looked away. "I don't know." "He stepped down, Chloe, for you." "I didn't ask him to." "No, but you asked him to be brave." And he was. Chloe picked at the muffin in silence. "Do you love him?" Mia asked. The question landed like a drop in a still lake. No splash, just ripples. Chloe's voice was soft. "Yeah, I think I do." "Then what are you waiting for?" Chloe blinked back tears. To stop being afraid, Mia reached over and took her hand. "Then be afraid," she said, "but don't be absent." That evening, Chloe did something she hadn't done in weeks. She got dressed for herself, not for a date, not for the cameras, not for the headlines, just for her. She wore a deep green dress, simple, flowing, with soft sleeves. The kind that moved when she did. She tied her hair back loosely, letting the rest fall the way it wanted. And then, as the sun began to slip behind the buildings, she walked. Right past the cameras, past the whispers, past the flashing lights and open mouths. She didn't speak. She just kept walking, heart racing, eyes forward. She wasn't sure if it was courage or foolishness. But either way, she didn't stop. Nathan hadn't left the cottage since the press conference. He didn't watch the news, didn't check his phone. He just sat in that quiet, fire-lit space, wondering if the silence on the other side meant he'd done the right thing, or simply lost everything in the process. He told himself he would wait until she was ready, wait until she could breathe again, wait until... A knock on the door. He froze, not a knock of emergency, a knock of hesitation, slow, careful, hopeful. He opened the door, and there she was, Chloe. Hair swept back, eyes shimmering, that green dress soft around her like forest wind. They stared at each other for a moment, both unsure whether they were imagining it. "Hi," she said quietly. "Hi." Her throat tightened. "I'm sorry." He shook his head. "No, I'm the one who—" "No," she interrupted. "Let me say it." He stopped. Chloe took a breath. "I was scared," she said. "You put your entire world on the line for me. And I didn't know what to do with that." Nathan's voice was gentle. "You weren't supposed to do anything." "I didn't trust that you were ready," she went on, "because I wasn't sure if I was." Nathan stepped closer. "And now?" She blinked at him, eyes full of the same warmth he'd seen on the first night her camera had stayed on. "I don't want you to be a man who gave something up for me," she said. "I want to be the woman who built something with you." He didn't say anything. He just reached out, slowly, and tucked a strand of her hair behind her ear. His hand lingered at her cheek. "Then stay," he whispered. She nodded. And this time, when they moved toward each other, it wasn't careful. It wasn't hesitant. It was inevitable. Their kiss wasn't perfect. It was urgent, messy, years of walls collapsing into one long breath shared between them. When they finally pulled apart, Chloe leaned her forehead against his. "I'm still scared," she whispered. "Good," he said. "That means it's real." Later that night, as they lay on the couch under an old quilt, fireplace flickering, wind tapping against the windows, Chloe rested her head on Nathan's chest and said something she hadn't said in years. "Thank you for seeing me." Nathan looked down at her, his hand brushing her arm. "I always saw you," he said, even when I wasn't brave enough to say it out loud. She smiled softly, eyes drifting closed. And for the first time in her life, Chloe didn't feel like a footnote in someone else's story. She felt like the beginning of something entirely her own. The quiet didn't last long. It was the kind of peace that made you forget the world had sharp edges, the kind that made you hope again, just enough to feel vulnerable when reality came knocking. And on Thursday afternoon, it did. Literally. Chloe was at the cottage alone, curled up by the window with a book, the fire humming behind her. Nathan had gone into the city for a short meeting with his legal team to finalize the transfer of power, confirm his resignation, and sever ties with Hale and Wexler for good. He'd texted her 2 hours ago. "Almost done. Want anything from the bakery?" She'd smiled at the message. But now someone was at the door. She wasn't expecting anyone. A soft knock. 2, then silence. She hesitated, heart picking up pace as she walked to the door. She wasn't sure what she expected, but it definitely wasn't the ghost of a woman who knew Nathan before he ever looked at her. She opened the door. At first, she didn't recognize the woman standing there. She was older than Chloe had imagined, mid-30s maybe. Warm skin, dark waves of hair tucked into a scarf, tired but elegant eyes. A presence that felt both familiar and foreign. "Hi," the woman said, voice low. "You don't know me, but I think we need to talk." Chloe blinked. "I'm sorry." "I'm Elise," she said. The name landed like a stone in Chloe's chest. Nathan's Elise. The one who had left. The one who had warned her. The one who came before. They sat across from each other at the wooden kitchen table. Chloe had made tea, more out of instinct than kindness, and her hands trembled slightly as she set the cup down. Elise wrapped her fingers around it but didn't drink. "I'm not here to hurt you," she said. "Or Nathan. I just needed to see the person who made him risk everything." Chloe said nothing. "I watched the press conference," Elise went on. "I didn't think he had that in him." Chloe's voice was quiet. "Neither did I." There was a long pause. The fireplace crackled behind them. "I loved him," Elise said. "Back then, we weren't public. We couldn't be. But it was real." Chloe nodded slowly. "He told me about you, about what happened." Elise gave a small, sad smile. "He never stopped blaming himself." Another pause. "You should know something," she said. "He didn't walk away from me. I did. I thought I was saving him, and maybe I was. But I also left him with a story that ended in silence. And I think he's been carrying that weight ever since." Chloe's voice wavered. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because I don't want him to carry that weight into this," Elise said. "Into you." Their eyes met across the table. "I don't regret loving him," Elise added, "but I regret leaving without saying goodbye properly, without saying it wasn't your fault." Chloe's throat tightened. "He never said that part." "He wouldn't," Elise said, "because he still thinks people fall apart because of him." Chloe looked down. "I did. Almost. But you didn't," Elise said gently. "You stayed. And that's why I came. To tell you that whatever happens next, don't let fear write your ending, like I did." The tea had gone cold, but Chloe felt warmer than she had in days. "Thank you," she whispered. Elise stood and offered a small, real smile. "Take care of him," she said. "I will." "And take care of you too," Elise added. "He's only half the story." Chloe watched her walk away. No bitterness, no jealousy, just grace. And maybe the closure they had both needed. That night when Nathan returned, Chloe didn't tell him right away. He kissed her forehead, gave her a warm bag from the bakery, took off his coat and pulled her close. But something in her shifted, not because she doubted him, but because she no longer doubted herself. "I saw her," she said softly, curled beside him on the couch. "Who?" "Elise." Nathan froze. "She came to the cottage This afternoon. He pulled back slightly. Are you okay? Chloe nodded. She didn't come to cause trouble. She came to let go. Nathan exhaled. That sounds like her. She said she left you to protect you. Nathan looked down. And I let her. Chloe reached for his hand. You're not that man anymore, she said. His eyes lifted to hers. You're braver now, even if you're still figuring out what that means. Nathan's voice was quiet. I don't deserve you. You don't have to, Chloe replied. You just have to choose me every day. I will, he said. I know. And when they kissed that time, it wasn't urgent. It wasn't desperate. It was peaceful. Like two people who had finally come through the fire and weren't afraid of the smoke anymore. Outside, the headlines kept spinning. The media moved on, as they always did. A new scandal, a new celebrity meltdown, a new distraction. But in a quiet cottage, somewhere just outside the noise, two people were learning to build something real, something that didn't need a title, or a press release, or permission, just time, and truth, and each other. It didn't happen all at once. Their peace wasn't some perfect sunrise where everything made sense again. It was more like a slow season, small, gradual moments where silence felt safe, where laughter started to return, where they learned how to be with each other, not in hiding, not in fear, but in truth. Nathan never went back to the company. He could have. The board had softened their stance after public support poured in. Shareholders were suddenly less concerned with image, more fascinated by the idea that a CEO could actually be human. But Nathan refused. He'd meant what he said, that if love had a price, then power wasn't worth the receipt. Instead, he invested quietly in nonprofit startups, mostly run by women. He sat on advisory panels, wrote anonymously for business journals, and once, at Chloe's suggestion, taught a university workshop titled Leadership Without Ego. She sat in the back row the entire first session, smiling. Chloe didn't stay in the data department. She didn't stay at Hale & Wexler at all. The company offered her a quiet transfer, a new position, better salary, guaranteed discretion. She declined, not out of spite, but because she didn't want her story rewritten by someone else's pen. Instead, she accepted a fellowship at a social impact lab downtown, a place that studied workplace culture and designed tools to make professional environments more humane. When they asked in the interview why she wanted the position, she smiled and said, I've seen how much damage silence can do. I want to build systems that reward honesty, not just performance. She got the job. They lived in the cottage for a while, then moved into a small apartment with big windows and mismatched furniture they picked out at a flea market. Nathan gave up the tailored suits. Chloe gave up the habit of apologizing for taking up space. They still had bad days, some loud, some quiet. But the difference now was, they faced them together. No more secrets, no more pretending, no more waiting for someone to leave first. One evening, nearly a year later, they were sitting on a rooftop, not a corporate one, just a small Brooklyn rooftop warm with string lights and music from a neighboring apartment drifting through the air. Nathan had a notebook in his lap. Chloe was barefoot, her legs across his. She was reading aloud from an old book she'd loved as a teenager, something about missed chances and people who leave before they realize what they had. She closed the book softly. I used to think love was about big moments, she said, grand gestures, someone showing up at an airport or shouting your name in the rain. Nathan smiled. You still love dramatic endings. Maybe, she said, brushing a lock of hair from her eyes. But now I think love is just someone staying, even when the sky doesn't clear right away. Nathan looked at her, a quiet awe in his eyes. I never believed I could be part of something like this, he said. Something without terms or control, something real. Chloe leaned in, pressing her forehead to his. You didn't need to control it, she whispered. You just needed to let it happen. He kissed her softly, not like a punctuation mark, like a promise. And maybe that was what love really was. Not a rescue, not a secret, not a perfect story wrapped in a headline, but a slow unfolding. A choice made in quiet moments again and again. To stay, to see, to be seen. The end. So let me ask you something. Have you ever walked away from something just because it scared you? And if you had the chance, today, right now, would you choose it again? Tell me in the comments. Sometimes the bravest thing we can do isn't chasing love. It's standing still long enough to let it find us. If this story touched you, give it a like. It means more than you know. And if you're not subscribed yet, now's the perfect time. Every story here carries a soul, maybe even a piece of yours too. One last thing. What would you rate this story? From 1 to 10. Be honest, I read every word. I'll see you in the next one. Until then, take care of your heart.